This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Crude oil prices were steady on Tuesday as concerns about a global economic slowdown and expected build in U.S. oil inventories were offset by hopes of a fuel demand recovery from top importer China. Brent crude was up 16 cents, or 0.2%, at $88.35 a barrel by 12:05 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude rose 22 cents, or 0.3%, to $81.84. The United States economy still could roll over, and some energy traders are still skeptical on how quickly China's crude demand will bounce back this quarter, OANDA analyst Edward Moya said in a note.
India's crude oil imports rose to a 5-month high in December, government data showed on Monday, as refiners stocked up discounted Russian fuel amid a steady increase in consumption in the country. Crude imports for the month were up 2.7% from November at 19.52 million tons, according to data from the Petroleum Planning and Analysis Cell. On a yearly basis, imports were down 0.7% in December. Russia continued to be the top oil supplier to India in December, shipping a record 1.25 million barrels per day, BPD.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Urals and KEBCO crude oil loadings from Russia's Baltic ports of Primorsk and Ust-Luga are set to rise by 50% this month from December as sellers try to meet strong demand in Asia and benefit from rising global energy prices, traders said and Reuters calculations showed. Around 70% of January cargoes of Urals oil are heading to India, according to traders' data and Reuters calculations. India has been a top buyer of the Russian grade for several months now, filling the void left by EU buyers. In December, India's oil imports jumped to a 5-month record amid active buying of the Russian oil. China, which is seen as the second largest buyer of Urals in January, is also raising oil purchases in physical markets.
Norway on Tuesday said it plans to offer energy firms a record number of oil and gas exploration blocks in the Arctic as it seeks to prolong its hydrocarbon production, while green campaigners criticize the risk to the environment. The Nordic country, Europe's largest gas supplier and a major crude exporter, proposes to offer 78 blocks to energy firms in the Barents Sea, the highest number since the so-called APA licensing round began in 2003. Oslo also plans to offer 14 new blocks in the Norwegian Sea, which spreads north of the North Sea and above the Arctic Circle, bringing the total number of blocks on offer to 92. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. The global auto industry has committed $1.2 trillion to developing electric vehicles, EVs, providing a golden opportunity for new suppliers to grab contracts providing everything from battery packs to motors and inverters. Startups specializing in batteries and coatings to protect EV parts, and suppliers traditionally focused on niche motorsports or Formula 1, F1, racing, have been chasing EV contracts. Carmakers design platforms to last a decade, so high-volume models can generate large revenues for years. The next generation of EVs is due to hit around 2025, and many carmakers have sought help plugging gaps in their expertise, providing a window of opportunity for new suppliers.
Indian gold futures hit a fresh all-time high on Tuesday, tracking gains in overseas markets and a depreciation in the rupee currency, but the surge dampened demand in the world's second biggest consumer of the precious metal, dealers said. Domestic gold futures rose to 57,099 rupees, $699.19, per 10 grams, up nearly 4% so far in 2023.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural.
Indian wheat prices hit a fresh record high on Monday, following a delay in releasing extra stocks by the government to boost supplies and calm the domestic market reeling from shortages triggered by last year's lower crop, dealers and farmers said. India, the world's second biggest producer of wheat, banned exports in May 2022 after a sudden rise in temperatures clipped output, even as exports picked up to meet the global shortfall triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Record high wheat prices despite the export ban indicate a far bigger drop in last year's output, traders say. According to government estimates, wheat output fell to 106.84 million tons in 2022 from 109.59 million tons a year earlier. That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.